we live? Are we live just in time? Oh, let me double check. We had a technical difficulty literally just before qualifying. I can't see any chat messages. I'm gonna assume we maybe are live, but my computer is still being a bit 50-50, which is annoying. I think it's my internet connection more than anything else. Let's have a look. There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. I think we're there. I think we're live. Perfect. We're not. We're a little late. We're a little late. This is a lesson in having a second alarm. So my first alarm did not wake me up. My second alarm did. And then we ran into technical difficulties. Goodness me. Right. Let's wake up. Let's look alive. Hello, OJ. Hello, Rattlesnake. Hello, Heretic. What do I think of the Ferrari boys rivalry? I mean, it was always going to happen. When you're kicking out a driver before the season even starts, it's difficult to convince him that he shouldn't just go for it. You know what I mean? It's difficult to convince a driver to be a team player for 24 races when he's not part of the team effectively anymore. Thank you for I Like Cinnamon Bread. Thank you for subscribing. Hola, Alvaro, Ray. ML, do I like Lando? I do. Disappointed this morning, but we can bounce back. Got pole once, can get pole again, is what I'm feeling. Why does my title say sprint race? It's quali. Oh, does it? Oh, that's annoying. Let me sort that out. It's probably because I was copying bits over from the stream this morning, like tags and bits and pieces. Oh, yeah. Qualifying. Lovely stuff. Save. Boom. Okay, that should hopefully have swapped. Thank you for pointing that out. Hello, Sally again. Hello, Jude. God, we're all back once again. We are all back to do it all over again. It feels a bit strange, actually. I don't know if I like this new format where we've got the sprint earlier this morning and now another qualifying. It feels a bit weird. Like we've had a race. We've had like the excitement of a race already today. And now we're kind of, not the qualifying isn't exciting. It's just not as exciting. So I think it's just like taking a little bit of a step backwards. And then we're taking a bit of a break from the excitement of a race and going back to the excitement of qualifying, which is still there. It's not quite there. Hello, Kim. Hello, Mohammed as well. Can we expect a Ferrari 1-2? Not a 1-2. I think they'll be higher up than they were in the sprint qualifying, just because this looks like it's going to be dry. So that will play in their favor. I think that's another thing we have to take into account. The sprint qualifying was a bit better because of that final disaster craziness with the weather, where a lot of the teams had to adapt really, really quickly. And that put a lot of pressure on the drivers. And I think, you saw those drivers that were really comfortable with adapting to the wet weather conditions rise to the top. Your Hamiltons, your Alonsos, your Verstappens, they were still right up towards the top end. But you saw the drivers that were a little bit not quite there with it and maybe are still struggling to get to grips with this car. Like Charles Leclerc, for instance, has been nowhere near as good in qualifying in 2024 as he has been just generally. And it's something that he's even talked about, the fact that he's not quite there with his qualifying at this moment in time. And therefore it feels like, yeah, it's a bit of a 50-50 qualifying session when it came to the rain. But now that we haven't got the rain, it looks like it might be set up to be a bit more as expected. Just sort of general bits and pieces. Is Lewis washed, or is it just a bad car? I think it's just a bad car. But I'm so sorry. I think it's just a bad car. This is what happens when my alarm doesn't go off in time, and I'm like, just waking up. Can we see Sainz go top of... Can we see Sainz going to a top 3 team? I think so. I think Mercedes or Red Bull is a viable option for him. Depends on what he's really looking for. Bring back the 2022 sprint format. Is that the one you preferred? I like 2023. I thought 2023 worked as well. But yeah, 2024 so far, it just seems a bit weird to go from race to qualifying. How chaotic will the upcoming Grand Prix be, in your opinion? There's looking like there might be a little bit of rain tomorrow, actually, in Shanghai. So that could be quite the interesting turn of events. If that does happen, he would have the best Formula 1 drivers of his prime time until 20 years. Ooh, that's a tasty little take. Shall we move over to some qualifying then? So back to the standard qualifying format. 18 minutes in total for qualifying 1. We again want to leave the bottom 5 drivers outside of that top 15. Then we'll go to Q2. And finally Q3 for the top 10 format. Just a little bit longer. So the same format as the sprint qualifying that we had yesterday, but just a little bit longer in how it's going to work out. Albon on the radio. Ooh. Alex Albon discussing the tactics of getting past Kevin Magnussen in the pit lane. Saying we were there first, but Kevin Magnussen's clearly going to try and push his way through. What's going to happen between the two of them? Wow, you can see Nico Hülkenberg actually rushing the queue completely. Albon does get out in front of Magnussen, sorry, but Hülkenberg decides to just drive up the right-hand side of the pit lane and get himself into a better position. Unlikely to rain during this qualifying session, though, is what I'm seeing and hearing. Hello, Antonio, mate. Back once again. What makes me surprised, Aston had a DNF at the sprint race. I mean, that was mainly, I think, because of that collision with Carlos Sainz. I think Alonso could have continued. It was only a puncture, came in for that puncture, and got those tyres swapped around. But then he also just was right at the back of the pack, running around, sort of doing absolutely nothing, was so far off the back of everyone else, so it was pretty pointless. And I think they were like, you know, it's probably better to just not risk any more damage to Fernando Alonso in all of this, and therefore decided to drop in and take it away. It was a frustrating morning for Fernando Alonso, but again, he showed that he can battle right amongst those top teams, even with a car that definitely shouldn't be in and amongst those top teams at this moment in time. New to Formula 1, but saw the sprint and damn, didn't know there is so much to do. Yeah, sprint weekends are a little bit of a chaos, to be honest with you. Sprint weekends, bit of a mix. Oh, even the Sky commentary are basically not trying to spoil the sprint race. What a weird thing to do. It makes a massive difference to this qualifying session how drivers did in the sprint. Anyway, did it. Like the new format? Really? Okay. I'm still undecided. I feel like I've got to play out a couple of them and then see how it goes. Joe Guanyu on his first flying lap of this full qualifying. Of course, managed to get into the top 10. Ooh, Zero. Thank you for the gifted sub and the membership. Ooh, thank you, Zero. That's lovely of you to do. And Rock Rider, make sure you say thank you. Actually, new members stuff coming to the channel. Something that I'm doing today. Doing a little bit of a reformat for the members side of things. So those of you guys that are members in the chat, you will be happy to know there are new things are coming. At the moment, you get your name at the end of every single video. You get access to a couple of little podcasty bits that I recorded, although they're a little while back now. But some new features are coming, and I'm hopefully getting them sorted today. Oh, Joe Guanyu decides to not go ahead with that flying lap and come into the pits. Do I like China? I do. I think it's a good track to have on the Formula One calendar. I do think it's an entertaining track, normally because of the weather more than anything else. But I do like the Chinese Grand Prix. Yuki Tsunoda's DRS isn't working. So that's why he was a second and a half off the lap of Kevin Magnussen, who is currently on top of the timing sheets. Gasly's second fastest so far. I say that, George Russell comes across the line and just goes quickest of anybody by 0.2. Carlos Sainz on the medium compound tyre, only fourth fastest, 0.5 off Russell's time. Lando Norris currently making his way around as well. It's going to be Fernando Alonso, the next man across the start-finish line. Lance Stroll behind him. Bottas, Tsunoda getting out of the way of Lando Norris. It's my favourite circuit. I mean, it's on the wall behind me. Little bit of a giveaway. I'm a Singapore boy. Love Singapore Grand Prix. Don't know why, I just think it's the cars under the lights. Something a bit special. Looks beautiful. Just really gets me going. Lando Norris across the line and goes second fastest. Ooh, less than a 10th off George Russell. Thank you, Ray, for subscribing to the channel. Appreciate that, mate. Logan Sargent. Little replay as he goes through the first sector. What happened? Ooh, just got a little bit too much. Understeering off the track. And that's going to be a lap track infringement. And therefore, a deleted lap for Logan Sargent if it was a fast lap. Max Verstappen then has just come across the line and will start his first flying lap after winning the sprint race earlier on this morning. Pit lane incident involving Nico Hülkenberg being investigated. So there you go. Hülkenberg skipping the queue, driving down the right-hand side of all the cars. Starting to get investigated. And it's getting a little bit silly, the amount of traffic that we're seeing at the beginning of some of these sessions in the pit lane, especially when the cars are sitting stationary for minutes at a time. And then also they're being cut up by the cars towards the bottom of the garages. And they're just cutting the queue almost, just because they have the advantage of coming 10th in the driver's standings last year, or constructor standings, sorry, and being the furthest down the pit lane. Just seems a bit strange. What are the laps mentioned on the left side? I never understood. So from left to right, you've got the driver. Fernando Alonso, for instance, has just gone fastest of anybody. So he's top of the timing sheets. You've got their best lap so far. Then the gap to the leader. So how far off? So Valtteri Bottas is second fastest of anybody, but he was 4.1. He was 0.412 seconds off Alonso. So 0.04 of a second. 0.4 of a second off Fernando Alonso. This explanation is not going well. And then you've got Sector 1, Sector 2, Sector 3. So the track is split into 3 sectors, generally speaking. That's kind of a standard across Formula 1. And Sector 1, Sector 2, Sector 3, you can see the lap times of each driver as they're coming around. So even though Max Verstappen might not have finished his lap yet, you can see his Sector 1 and Sector 2 times are not as quick as some of the others. And therefore, you can see he's maybe not going to go quickest. He's only going to go second quickest. Then you've got the tyre that they are using. So soft, medium, or hard. And then finally, how many laps they have done on that set of tyres. So are they a used set of tyres? Are they new set of tyre? What is my new name? What is my actual name? My real name? My real name. Geez, James Brewer is very desperate to know your hot take. Or hot topic. What is your hot topic? Like Daniel Fark. We are very good at the topics. Old Norwich manager. Very old man. 9 minutes left to go in this qualifying session. Alex Albon starting his flying lap. Logan Sargent did manage to get it around and went 6th fastest of anybody. So Yuki Tsunoda now drops into that bottom 5. Piastri, Perez, Albon, and Joe yet to set fast lap times. Joe Guan Yu comes across the line again. Oh, goes 6th fastest. Maybe, just maybe, this stake car is actually going to do it once again. Was in the top 10. Joe Guan Yu just about missed out on a point-scoring place in the sprint. Came 9th, with George Russell finishing just ahead in 8th place. But 9th place would be good enough for points in the race. However, they will have to do a pit stop in the race. So there's a lot of backwards and forwards thinking when it comes to the race versus the sprint for stake and whether or not they'll be able to turn that 9th place into another 9th place for Joe Guan Yu. But currently, he's doing the business up in 7th. Alex Albon comes across the line, goes 4th fastest. Alex Albon should also be a lot quicker in this than he was in the sprint qualifying. Williams kind of got it a little bit wrong in sprint quali 1 and then just fell apart a little bit. Oscar Piastri, though, goes quickest of anybody, fastest from the McLaren driver. Carlos Sainz in 17th place has swapped his mediums for softs and is currently looking like he will be out of this qualifying session if he does not improve. Kevin Magnussen is 15th and the man on the bubble. 7 minutes left to go, though. We're going to see lap times from a lot of these drivers. Carlos Sainz going fastest through the middle sector of anybody there. So you can see the purple ring around Carlos Sainz's sector 2. Now going down that back straight, Carlos Sainz reaching that 200-mile-an-hour limit with the DRS open. 210? No, 208 miles an hour is all he gets to. And then brakes really hard, gets into the DRS, gets into the apex of the corner. Round the final bend. And let's see, Carlos Sainz opens that DRS once again across the line and goes quickest. Was looking at a very good lap time from Carlos Sainz, and he proves that to be the case. He was 0.04 of a second quicker than Oscar Piastri, who drops down into 2nd place. What's my real name? James, or Hot Dog, as Rosie is saying. Yeah, Hot Dog, Hot Diggity Dog. Or as Kim has said, Bob. Oh, Daniel Ricciardo, a little brake issue in the RB and is in that bottom 5 as well. So coming back into the pits, Daniel Ricciardo, getting that checked over, and hopefully we'll be able to get back out there again. Lando Norris, 17th fastest, of course, took pole position in the sprint race. Didn't turn into a very exciting sprint race for Lando Norris and all of that. Ended up getting pushed wide at turn 2 by Lewis Hamilton, and then ending up finishing in 6th place. So wasn't the best of finishes from Lando, but got an opportunity to do it all over again and prove himself once again in qualifying here in China. Big oversteer though from Lando Norris, struggling to get to grips with the McLaren car. Still doing a lot better than Logan Sargent, who is currently in 15th place, but it's not ridiculously quick through the first sector at all from Lando Norris. Lando, yeah, just struggling with the car. You can see a lot of wheel movement from Lando Norris, not overly smooth through that middle sector. Is 8/10 up on Logan Sargent's time, so it's not looking like, you know, he's going to drop out of qualifying or anything crazy, but just not quite getting to grips with this McLaren car 100%. Lando Norris comes to that hairpin at turn 14. It's kind of, I don't really know. It's not massively a hairpin. It's just a very tight corner, isn't it? Hairpin-ish. Round the final corner, Lando Norris across the line. Goes quickest. Was not expecting him to go quickest there. Wow, okay. It wasn't an insane first and second sector. It was kind of on the money. Wow. Lando Norris proving me a little bit wrong there. A very solid final sector in particular. Puts him fastest in that third sector. Spot on from Lando and proves the pole position yesterday. It wasn't a fluke. Sergio Perez down towards turn 14. Ooh, misses the apex completely to Sergio Perez, but maybe taking a slightly different line through there because it looked like he kind of took that on purpose. Sergio Perez down and across the line. Goes 6th fastest. Too bad from Sergio Perez, but hasn't improved on his qualifying from sprint qualifying. That was where he landed then. Zhou Guanyu, 16th fastest at this point, though. 2.5 minutes left to go. The time is ticking away. And here is the Chinese driver coming around the final corner. Nico Hülkenberg, currently the man on the bubble in 15th place. Sergeant Ricardo Hamilton, also down there in the bottom 5. And Kevin Magnussen all need to improve if they want to continue to take part in qualifying as we move through to Q2, looking for those bottom 5 drivers. But let's stay with Zhou Guanyu at his home Grand Prix. As I said, just missed out on points during the sprint. He'll want to come 9th once again. And he's 2.5 tenths up on Nico Hülkenberg's time as he comes through the first sector. The sparks flying behind that stake Formula 1 car. You can't miss it. The lime green flying around Shanghai. Zhou Guanyu getting every single piece of apex that he possibly can. It's a very nice lap from Zhou Guanyu. Very smooth through this middle sector. Now coming to that really important turn 11, 12, and 13. You have to get this spot on so that you've got as good a run as possible down this incredibly long back straight here in China. The DRS gets opened as you get about sort of a third of the way down the straight. Pushing that state car to the absolute limits. And just, a little bit of a lock-up from Zhou Guanyu, but still manages to make the corner. Doesn't have to drift off the track in any way. Round the final corner, sparks flying once again. DRS open, dragged to the line. And it's 8th fastest from Zhou Guanyu. That tiny little lockup. Is that going to cost him? 8th fastest right now, but we've still got cars continuing to come around. Lewis Hamilton in particular, 19th fastest at this moment in time, but is going 0.5 of a second quicker than Pierre Gasly, who is now the man in 15th place and in trouble of losing his position. Logan Sargent, though, is not improving and is going to stay in that bottom 5. He's only got 8 seconds to get to the line. He's not going to be able to do that from there as Lewis Hamilton passes him down the back straight. So Logan Sargent out of this one. Nico Hülkenberg improves, goes 4th fastest. Gasly and Tsunoda now down in that bottom 5. Daniel Ricciardo, Logan Sargent there with them. Daniel Ricciardo on a flying lap. So's Gasly as well. Lewis Hamilton is only 12th fastest. George Russell and Charles Leclerc also on laps behind him. Daniel Ricciardo goes across the line. 9th fastest from the new look RB car. Love that. Very good lap. Charles Leclerc is now in 15th. And I think we could end up seeing Lewis Hamilton drop out of qualifying here. It is not looking good. Lance Stroll, goes 9th. George Russell jumps up to 5th. So Lewis Hamilton is now on the bubble and Charles Leclerc is on an absolute flyer of a lap. Max Verstappen goes quickest just to assert his dominance in the Red Bull car. 1/10 of a second quicker than Lando Norris. But Gasly is going to come across the line now. And I think Gasly is just going to do better anyway. Yeah, Gasly up into 9th place. Hamilton is out of qualifying. Kevin Magnussen, the next person who looks like he might miss out. It's going to be Zhou Guanyu as well, probably dropping into it. Ocon goes 11th fastest. The Alpines have found their speed boots. Charles Leclerc goes 2nd fastest of anybody. I knew it was a good lap from Charles Leclerc. Purple through the middle sector, 0.05 of a second out. Yuki Tsunoda, though, a pretty poor middle sector from the Japanese driver, and he is out of it. Is Kevin Magnussen on a flying lap? No. He is going to find himself in the bottom 5. And Hamilton, 18th fastest. Whoa. He's gone from running 2nd in the sprint this morning to qualifying in 18th place. Goodness me. Oh, and there's the error from Logan Sargent. Whoa, a spin from Logan Sargent and through the gravel as well in the Williams. Logan Sargent is just really not proving himself in this Williams car. Through the gravel, lap time completely ruined. Also takes out one of the brake boards. So Sargent out in 20th place. Sargent is joined by Yuki Tsunoda, 19th. Really struggling with the RB this weekend, the Japanese driver. Lewis Hamilton in 18th. And there was that little mistake down towards turn 14. Just locked up. Did Lewis Hamilton. But dropped out of qualifying in this one. Kevin Magnussen, 17th fastest. And Zhou Guanyu, so disappointing for Zhou Guanyu at his home Grand Prix. Especially considering how close he was to points this morning. He is out in 16th place and he's going to have to do it all from there come tomorrow's Grand Prix. Sergio Perez, was close for Sergio Perez. 15th fastest in all of that. 135. 4 and a 135.5. Less than half a 10th of a second between Zhou Guanyu and Sergio Perez. So it was close to the Mexican also dropping out and joining Lewis Hamilton as a bit of a surprise driver to fall out of qualifying. Another Merc out in Q1. They're just, Mercedes just can't seem to get the balance of this car in any kind of predictable area. Like the drivers just seem confused a lot of the time. They come out of the qualifying and don't really know. Like, Lewis Hamilton was on the radio asking, was that enough? Was it not enough? Like, he didn't even know if that was a good lap or not, really. He knew he'd made a mistake towards the end, but was the rest of the lap even good? Not sure. Yuki is indeed out of this one. Lando Norris third. I mean, Lando Norris is quick around here. Was on pole position this morning for the sprint qualifying. For the sprint race. Managed to get a pole position in sprint qualifying. Yeah, Lewis Hamilton locked up in turn 14. So did Zhou Guanyu, actually. That seems to be the real maker of the cars at the moment. Down towards turn 14. Can the cars get themselves through there without locking up? And unfortunately, looks like a lot of them were struggling. Let's have a little look, actually, of those sector times as we wait to come through. These are the top sector times of all the drivers. Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz really struggling through that first sector in comparison. But once they get through that first sector, absolutely flying through the middle and final sectors. You can see Zhou Guanyu was actually pretty hard done by. 20th in the first sector, though, so it kind of all came undone for Zhou there. Yeah. You can kind of see where everyone was falling into place, can't you? Bit of a mix. And this is the Chinese Grand Prix circuit, like, in a nutshell, really. The first, second, and third sectors are so different to one another. Like, the first sector is all about really close controls. Second sector, all about high-speed corners. And then the final sector is just all about that straight line speed and getting turn 14 absolutely spot on. Really interesting to see that kind of mix of momentums. McLaren's actually looking pretty good. Hamilton's time wasn't exceptional. Look at that. Dropped all the way down to 19th because of that lockup in the final sector, Lewis Hamilton. Ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Just listen to Mike crack. The wind and the temperatures also causing some issues for the Aston Martins, and Mike Crack just explaining that. Hamilton out-qualified by both Alpines. Hamilton out-qualified by a lot of drivers. Albon in there, Ricciardo in there, Lance Stroll, Valtteri Bottas, Hülkenberg. These are all cars that you'd expect Lewis Hamilton to be ahead of. But did not go well. Alpines, though, looking a lot quicker. I don't know whether they've just changed up some settings or... Obviously, it is a new look Alpine car. Esteban Ocon has got a brand new chassis, the upgraded chassis for the Alpine team as they look to try and scramble together at least some performances that are worthwhile in this 2024 season. The first 4 races have not been anything to write home about for the Alpine setup, so trying to improve and looking to possibly have found some of that improvement. Didn't come across in the sprint qualifying, but maybe that was because they were on the medium compound tyre, didn't quite get it right. Similar to what happened to Alex Albon. Albon and Williams just kind of messed up that initial Q1 session for the sprint. And when you do that, unfortunately, because of the sprint qualifying format and the fact that you have to use the medium tyres, it all went wrong. Can anyone tell me what happened to Lewis? He just made a mistake in turn 14, locked up, went really deep. And it was all done and dusted. Please, chaos again. Doesn't look like it's going to rain this time around. So, unfortunately, less rain means less chaos. But there is, as Rowley has just said, wet race tomorrow actually is looking medium to likely. Could happen. These cars nowadays don't even drive in the wet. Not the full wet. An intermediate race would be interesting. Q2 is underway, by the way. The timer over there isn't wrong. It is ticking down. We've got 12 and a half minutes left to go in this Q2 session, but no drivers looking like they want to get out on track. Although as we look at Max Verstappen, I can hear some engines revving. So I think we're going to start to see some cars coming down the pit lane. There's Nico Hülkenberg out on track. The Alpines also joining. Lance Stroll, here we go. The cavalry is arriving. Stake of Valtteri Bottas trying to join the queue. Looks like Lando Norris is going to let him out. But no cars coming out. They're just trying to game the system a little bit. Because you don't want to be first out on track, really. Oh no, Lando Norris has closed the door on Valtteri Bottas. I was in the pit lane first. I will continue down the pit lane first. But it's going to be Nico Hülkenberg. That's actually the first man to set a flying lap time. Ocon came out just behind him. Gasly, Stroll, Ricciardo, Alonso. Piastri is the next man out of the pits. It's taking these cars such a long time to get down the pit lane. They're so worried about giving themselves enough space on the track. Alex Albon is next. And again, it's kind of that lull of waiting. Norris out next. And so I'm talking about. We were just chatting about Norris and Bottas having a little fight in the pit lane. They're only just coming out of it now anyway. Norris ahead of Bottas. Max Verstappen joining the party. Nico Hülkenberg, I'll keep an eye on though. Down towards turn 14 is going to be first. Charles Leclerc just really frustrated with trying to get out of the pit lane and having to stop in the pit lane, losing a little bit of his momentum. It's got to be weird for the driver as well, just in terms of your mentality. You're sitting there in the pit lane stationary for so long. I know you've obviously got the formation lap to get your tyres back up to temperature and things like that, but it's just got to be a little bit strange to get yourself into that mindset. And Kit, hello mate, how you doing? Manifesting crazy overtakes tomorrow. I like it, Megan. I like it. Let's see then. Nico Hülkenberg already on a flying lap. A 25.1 through the first sector. Catching up to the back of Charles Leclerc, who will have to move out of the way in the Ferrari. Perez and Sainz finally out on track there. And George Russell at the back of the pack. So George Russell is going to be the last man to set a flying lap. But before that, we've got a lot of cars to contend with. Esteban Ocon just coming through the middle sector. Also taking over the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. A little bit of traffic for the Alpine of Pierre Gasly. He tries to get past George Russell. Hülkenberg now making his way down towards turn 14 and getting past Max Verstappen in doing this turn 14 hairpin. Max Verstappen's going to gain a little bit of a toe from Nico Hülkenberg as well, down towards the start-finish line. But Hülkenberg's going to get us started with a 134.9 in the Haas. Ocon just coming around turn 14. Gasly on the back straight. So these times are going to start coming in thick and fast. Ocon not quick enough. 3/10 off the back of Nico Hülkenberg. Carlos Sainz just starting his flying lap as Pierre Gasly behind him is finishing it. And Gasly nowhere near his teammate. A second off the pace. 7/10 off Esteban Ocon's time, let alone the rest. George Russell is going to be the last man across the start-finish line, although Lance Stroll has just gone second fastest of anybody. Daniel Ricciardo comes in and into the middle of the mix. Third place from Daniel Ricciardo. Alonso is next. Piastri, Albon, Norris and Bottas all making their way down that pit straight are all on flying laps as well. Alonso goes quickest of anybody. The Aston Martin up into first place. A disappointing morning for Fernando Alonso, but hasn't put him back. Although Oscar Piastri puts him into second as Piastri takes provisional pole. Albon, little bit of a wiggle around the final corner for the Williams, but gets 6th fastest on the board. Lando Norris comes across the line and goes quickest of anybody. Norris a 34.4. Max Verstappen, though, fastest in the first sector. Fastest in the second sector from the Red Bull. Comes around the final corner. DRS open across the line and goes 5/10 quicker than Lando Norris and takes provisional pole position. Although, remember, we're just looking for those bottom 5 drivers. Charles Leclerc, 8th fastest. That's not going to put him in a very solid position with Sainz, Perez, and Russell all to come across the line. Perez first. Goes 5th fastest. And Carlos Sainz, And Carlos Sainz has lost it. Carlos Sainz has lost his Ferrari car as he came around the final corner. He's gone into the barriers on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side of the track, sorry. Completely spun his Ferrari around. And George Russell is going to have yellow flags, and that's a red flag. So George Russell was literally on the start-finish straight and didn't get to finish his lap. Carlos Sainz out of qualifying, though, by the looks of things, unless he can get that Ferrari going again. Just dipped his rear right tyre onto the gravel. Lost the rear end of the Ferrari, spun around. And as you come around the final corner, you're on the right-hand side of the track. Loses it, is facing the complete wrong direction. And then gets onto the grass on the left-hand side of the track as well. Bumps the front end of the Ferrari and the rear end of the Ferrari. And that is a hefty shunt in front of the main grandstand here in Shanghai. It's just because when he goes onto the grass as well, he's almost got the car to a standstill. And it's not quite there. Can I put the AR radio on? Yeah, of course, sorry. So Carlos Sainz actually just trying to get that car going again and has got that car going again. So what have we got? Well, actually, it's a red flag, so he's okay. I was thinking the time-wise, that is the complete front wing of the Ferrari disintegrated. So that's somewhere in the grandstand, maybe. Someone can take home a piece of Carlos Sainz front wing. But Carlos Sainz is going to have the opportunity here with the red flag to get all the way back around to the pit lane. And he's going to be able to restart with 6 minutes and 44 seconds on the clock. George Russell has only just got all the way back around to the pits. Carlos Sainz is not going to be a speedy return to the pits for the Ferrari, missing a lot of bodywork. They're going to have to give it a once-over to make sure that there's not any real damage to that Ferrari car. And that it is just cosmetic damage. Probably going to be a big hit to the front wing. The tyres are squared. Give feedback on the suspension. Yeah, can't give feedback on that. The damage looks to be just the front wing of the Ferrari, but they will have to give a little bit of a look because it was a hefty shunt to the rear end as well. The problem was he spun around 180, and as he got onto the grass, the front end of the car hit the grass first, so that kind of sped off towards the barriers. The front end connected with the barrier, and then it whipped around, and the rear end also connected with the barrier as well. So the front right and rear right tyres are going to have to be checked over in terms of the suspension because they took a hefty whack. It has to be said. I'm impressed he's been able to keep that car going. Of course, you can restart that the cars from inside because they're already warmed. You can put them into neutral and re-engage them. The onboard kept on the power. Oh, it's not the nicest of crashes for Carlos Sainz. Carries a lot of speed around that final corner. And yeah, it's the tiniest little dips. The rear right tire just dips it into the gravel. But he kept it going. Can I stream the race? Or is it prohibited by Formula 1? I'll be live for the race. Don't you worry. I'll be live. Tyson C, timer stopped. Yeah, during a red flag, the timer is stopped. Carlos Sainz is now back in the pits for Ferrari. They're having a look at the car. Still no green flag, though, so they've got a little bit of time on their hands. We don't know when we are going to be back underway with some action for you. But Carlos Sainz has got a little bit of time to get a new front wing, at least, onto that car. Some new tyres also required. And yeah, the Ferrari team checking over, making sure that they're not going to cause additional damage to the car. Because the problem is, you can send the car out, but if it's just going to disintegrate and it's not going to be worthwhile, not worth it. So they need to make the call on that Ferrari car and whether or not Carlos Sainz can continue. Of course, he would be out of qualifying and would be out of this session because he didn't manage to set a fast lap time. So there's no hope of him getting through to Q3 at this moment in time. And the Ferrari team having, that little bit of extra time. If he was through to Q3, the Ferrari team would have until then. But he is not. No fast lap time for him. And everybody is going to go out once again once the red flag comes to an end. So Carlos Sainz needs to get out on track in probably the next 10 minutes, you would say. They're just wiping the track, getting rid of some of the gravel that the Ferrari brought onto the track with it. Some of the carbon fiber as well from that Ferrari front wing that just completely shattered across the racetrack. Who do I think will be first? In qualifying, it's hard to look past Max Verstappen at this point. It's fastest in Q1 now, fastest in Q2. Won the sprint race this morning. I think if it's dry like it has been, then Max Verstappen is the man to be there. Unfortunate that Russell couldn't set a time. Yeah, really unfortunate. Like, that's the risk that you, I guess, have. If you're risking going out last, then any kind of incident, yellow flag or red flag, is always going to cost you some lap time. But also you gain the fact that the track is the most rubbered in if you go out last of anybody as well. So you kind of have that really difficult balance between, can you go out and last and hopefully everyone else makes it around, or do you go out first, make sure that you get around, but maybe you don't end up actually where you want to be. There's a camera just underneath where Carlos Sainz went wide as well. Ouch. Sainz didn't make a mistake. I replace it with the word my team from Lewis Hamilton. Not sure what you mean. 50 likes. Is there, Harris? Thank you guys so much for leaving a like on the stream. We usually try and aim for 100 likes in these qualifying sessions. So if you are enjoying the stream, why not leave a little bit of a like whilst we've got a little bit of a lull as the red flag is rescinded. We're going to be back in play in 2 minutes time. So you've got 2 minutes. Got 2 minutes to leave a little like, maybe subscribe to the channel as well. We're going to be live for the race tomorrow. We were live for the sprint race earlier this morning as well. So if you're in the UK and you didn't manage to get up for the 3 a.m. start or 4 a.m. start, can't remember what it was now, 4 a.m. start, and you want to rewatch the sprint race with all of us, we were live for that sprint race as well. You can check that out on the channel. Or if you want some different takes on the Williams situation, I made a video a couple of days ago just going through the chaos that has occurred at Williams thanks to their very crash heavy start to the season and some of the repercussions that might have on the rest of the season. So if you could check out that video, maybe watch that video now, just pop it on in the background, you know, open another tab, have that video on, make sure it plays all the way through. That would be very kind. But that's the main thing you can do to support the channel. Just make sure you are here, subscribed, leaving likes, and watching the videos. And I can't ask any more than that. All completely free, of course. 10 cars will get points in the race. That is how it works. It's how it works. 10 cars get points. Obviously, this morning it was a little bit weird because only the 8 cars in the sprint race get points, but a lot more points available for the full Grand Prix. Why do I keep saying provisional pole when it's Q2? I think it's just the... Technically, if Q3 didn't happen, like if Q3 was abandoned for some reason, then it would be provisional pole. But no, you are right. It's technically not, because we do have Q3 to come up. Ooh, okay. Pro Pepper Trolls, thank you so much for subscribing. Yeah, still waiting. I was expecting the green flag to be waved around about now, but just keeping us on our toes. George Russell, the sole Mercedes, ready to go. Of course, we've got Joe Guan Yu, Kevin Magnussen, Lewis Hamilton, Yuki Tsunoda, and Logan Sargent already out in qualifying. And in 6 minutes and 44 seconds, once we get going again, we're going to see another 5 drivers dropping out of it. So there is George Russell. Of course, didn't manage to set a flying lap time. But he's going to go around and he's going to have, yeah, literally free reign of the track by the looks of things. I think everyone else is probably going to wait for sort of the 3 or 4 minute mark to really start to make any kind of movements. But George Russell wants to get out there early, get a lap time in, because he wasn't able to do one because of that Carlos Sainz crash happening in front of him. What happened to Lewis Hamilton? Made a mistake in turn 14. That just cost him too much time. Missed out on getting through to Q2 by about a 1/10 of a second. What happened to Carlos Sainz? He was going way too fast around turn 16. Dipped his Ferrari's tyres into the gravel. And then bang into the wall for Carlos Sainz. Although managed to get that Ferrari back around again during the red flag. So might be back out on track, but we'll have to wait and see in the Ferrari garage. Interesting that Max Verstappen has come out on track as well. Was not expecting anybody to join George Russell until Russell was at least on his flying lap, to be honest. But Penguin, thank you for subscribing, mate. Appreciate it. But George Russell now coming down the back straight. Max Verstappen making his way through the middle sector. Of course, won the sprint earlier on this morning, but started from 4th after sprint qualifying. I think he'll be looking to improve on that, considering this session looks like it's going to be completely dry. Daniel Ricciardo waiting in the wings. some Mexican supporters for Sergio Perez in Shanghai. Love to see it. Yeah, Lewis Hamilton just listening in there, disappointed, frustrated, knows that had he got turn 14 a little bit cleaner, probably would have made it through, but not the case this time around. George Russell is on a flying lap, by the way. He's 0.2 of a second off Max Verstappen's provisional pole time at this moment. But Max Verstappen now starting his flying lap, and the 4-minute mark has come, and this is where I was expecting the rest of the cars to get out on track, and you can see the Alpines starting to make their way round. And it's just Gasly on his own. Lance Stroll and Alonso out on track as well. Ocon behind the Aston Martins, but Max Verstappen on a flying lap already. George Russell down the back straight. Let's see what the Mercedes can do then. He's not going to really get an opportunity. Is he going to be able to? No, probably not. It's going to be it for George Russell unless he goes back-to-back flying laps. George Russell, third fastest. So there's George setting his marker. 0.6 to Max Verstappen. Not too shabby at all. So Daniel Ricciardo, Alex Albon, Esteban Ocon, Pierre Gasly, and Carlos Sainz currently the drivers in the drop zone. Although Carlos Sainz is out on track, so that car prepared and ready to go once again. Thank you, Geddy, for subscribing. Oliver Behrman, the reserve driver for Ferrari in the garage. Wonderful performance in Saudi Arabia, looking closer and closer to that Formula One seat for the 2025 season. Most likely Haas. Oh, displacing Hulkenberg or Kevin Magnussen. Which way that's going to go depends on where those two end up. Hulkenberg could definitely be pinched by another team on the grid, having a really solid start to this 2024 season and was very competitive, particularly in qualifyings last year where that Haas car did thrive. Carlos Sainz coming around down that final straight, getting the temperature in the tyres. He's got Daniel Ricciardo just in front of him. He's going to have to leave a little bit of a gap to the RB. Just slows himself down round turn 14. It's going to be a one-shot qualifying for Carlos Sainz in all of this. There's a minute to go on the clock. George Russell, third fastest. And he's going to be done and dusted. Lando Norris deciding that his time is good enough as well. Stays in the pit lane by the looks of things. But Carlos Sainz, let's see what the Ferrari can do. A disappointing sprint from Carlos Sainz in the end. Was battling for third place with Fernando Alonso. And a little bit of contact with his fellow Spaniard meant that he lost out on a couple of positions. Missed out to Sergio Perez. Missed out to his teammate Charles Leclerc as well. Is back on it once again and is absolutely on it through the first sector. Was 0.03 of a second off Max Verstappen's time. So Carlos Sainz clicking with this new front wing, maybe a little bit more than he was the last one. Alex Albon in 12th place, a pretty poor first sector from the Williams. So it's Ricciardo, Albon, Ocon, and Gasly that all need to improve. Charles Leclerc, the man actually on the bubble. Valtteri Bottas and Nico Hulkenberg sneaking themselves into the top 10. Sainz new chassis. Not new chassis, no, but it looks like a, well, definitely a new front wing and possibly some additional bits of tape added to that Ferrari just to get it out there. Ocon comes across the line. It's 11 fastest from Ocon, so he's going to stay out of this one. Daniel Ricciardo, though, goes 9 fastest, and that puts Charles Leclerc into the bottom 5. Carlos Sainz is going to come across the line and go 2nd quickest of anybody. Perfect lap from Carlos Sainz. He's made his way through. Albon across the line. Can't improve. Albon stays in that bottom 5. Charles Leclerc, then 12th fastest at this moment in time, goes 3rd fastest and drops Daniel Ricciardo into that bottom 5. Sergio Perez is right on the button once again, but no, improves, goes 2nd fastest and puts Lance Stroll to be the man in danger. Valtteri Bottas comes across the line and drops Lance Stroll into the bottom 5. And that's it. Lance Stroll is out of qualifying again. Again, Lance Stroll can't make it into the top 10 in an Aston Martin. Lance Stroll in 11th place. Daniel Ricciardo 12th. Ocon, Albon and Gasly are our 5 drivers to drop out of Q2. They join Zhou Guanyu, Kevin Magnussen, Lewis Hamilton, Yuki Tsunoda and Logan Sargent out of qualifying. So that is our bottom 10 sorted for tomorrow's Grand Prix. And Carlos Sainz, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's all good. I know I was in the wall like a few minutes ago, but fine. All good. 0.5 of a second off Max Verstappen. 3rd fastest time, quicker than his teammate Carlos Sainz. Much happier in that Ferrari car. A shake of the head from Fred as he just looks on and is like, what on earth? Why do they put us through this stress? Very, very stressful indeed for Fred. But both Ferraris through. And we are into Q3 for the Chinese Grand Prix. The first Chinese Grand Prix since 2019. It is lovely to be back in Shanghai. And our top 10, Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez, Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, George Russell, Fernando Alonso, Oscar Piastri, Nico Hülkenberg, and Valtteri Bottas all sneak into the top 10. Look at that. Nico Hülkenberg doing it again for Haas. And this is what I mean. Nico Hülkenberg, for those teams that are a little bit higher up on the grid, just as a short-term option, could be the perfect choice. I'm sure Haas will be absolutely desperate to keep hold of Nico Hülkenberg, but if Hülkenberg is given that opportunity somewhere higher up on the grid, or even just a different challenge, maybe the opportunity at stake as that's becoming Audi, I could see Nico Hülkenberg being a little bit of a snatch for somebody else. Valtteri Bottas in 10th place, trying to prove himself worthy of a spot on the Formula 1 grid. His performances in 2023 really didn't inspire, but maybe he can use this Shanghai Grand Prix performance to springboard the rest of his season. Lance Stroll, though, misses out in 11th place. Daniel Ricciardo in the new look RB. Better than his teammate, at least, for the first time this season, but still only 12th fastest, and will be kind of eyeing up some point scoring places if possible, will the Australian. Ocon and Gasly through to Q2. They'll just be happy that the Alpine does look a little bit quicker. Ocon with the upgraded chassis. Gasly without the upgraded chassis. So that 0.2 of a second, maybe just the difference there for Esteban Ocon in terms of that upgrade. And Alex Albon, a disappointing 14th, although was he really going to be able to sneak into the top 10? It was always going to be a very tricky challenge for the Thai driver in his Panda helmet. Do love the absolute Panda helmet that he's got going on. Harish, 100 likes on the stream. Thank you guys so much for liking the stream. Massively appreciated. Helps out the channel more than you would imagine. Albon given a well done from James Vowles, and I think the Williams team understand that their car just not quite on it round this Shanghai circuit. Valtteri Bottas. Through in P10. Given that confirmation over the radio. Very well done to Valtteri Bottas. What happened to Hamilton? Mistake in turn 14, cost him a few tenths of a second and dropped out in 18th place. He was only a 10th off 15th, but they are the margins in Formula 1 at the moment. Very, very close. Albon would have been 16th had Joe and Hamilton not made mistakes. Yeah, exactly. I think they're pretty happy with 14th place for Alex Albon, considering where the car is this weekend. Like you saw it during the sprint race, just not there in terms of the race pace either. What do I think about Sauber's pace this weekend? Pretty decent. Like, I mean, Zhou Guanyu finishing best of the rest in the sprint race, a 9th place finish. Just unlucky that it's the top 8 that get those points. And now Valtteri Bottas sneaking himself into the top 10 as well. Sauber kind of entering the race a little bit because it's been all Haas and RB in terms of the point. Well, all Haas and Yuki Tsunoda in terms of the points for those back of the pack teams in the first 4 races. But maybe we're starting to see Stake really turn up in all of that. Thank you, Henry, for subscribing to the channel. Might crack. Positive about the Aston Martin. Hopes going into Q3. When will Q3 start? We're just a few minutes away from the start of Q3. Obviously delayed because of that red flag during Q2 from Carlos Sainz, although the Ferrari back out on track and into Q3. Both Ferraris just sitting behind the Red Bulls. And I would imagine this is what it's going to look like. If I had to put my betting hat on, I'd say that the Red Bulls are going to be quickest. Verstappen probably takes pole. Maybe one of the Ferraris gets in the mix with the Red Bulls. As we see a young McLaren fan having a little dance around. Lovely stuff. But yeah, I'm expecting the Red Bulls to be towards the top end of this pack, with the Ferraris possibly mixed in, depending on how Sergio Perez gets on. Carlos Sainz versus Charles Leclerc is also an interesting dynamic coming into this final qualifying session, especially considering their little tete-a-tete during the sprint race earlier today, where Charles Leclerc called out Carlos Sainz for being a bit too abrasive in overtaking. Lando Norris is also right in the mix, was obviously on pole position for the sprint race earlier on today. 5th fastest in that qualifying session. Can improve. I'm expecting Lando Norris to do a little bit better. George Russell in 6th place. Alonso, never count him out either. Piastri's there. Hülkenberg, Bottas. I think we're looking at a very, very competitive final session, if I'm honest. It's going to be interesting to see how that fully develops. Hülkenberg and Russell out on track first. Max Verstappen comes out. It's going to be Hülkenberg setting the standard. And then Max Verstappen probably setting a very different standard just a couple of cars later. Will Sainz go ahead of Leclerc? That's the thing. This is one of the real battles to keep an eye out in terms of this qualifying session. Verstappen out in front of Sergio Perez. Alonso comes out in front of Piastri. There is Carlos Sainz in the repaired Ferrari. It was a quick repair from the Ferrari team. Did really well to put that car back together again after Carlos Sainz shunted into the wall. Of course, it wasn't, devastating damage or anything like that, but a full front wing change, checking the suspensions, making sure that it's safe to race. And Carlos Sainz back out on track. Lando Norris then behind him, and Charles Leclerc behind that. It's going to be those guys. What is the website? What do you mean by the website? As in the statistics? They are supplied to me by Multiviewer, which isn't a website. It is an app you have to download. You have to have a Formula 1 TV license as well. Who's my money on? Max Verstappen, as always. I think has to be the pick in these circumstances. Hülkenberg coming around the final corner and will get us underway in Q3 with 10 minutes on the clock. So it's going to be Hulkenberg, Russell, Verstappen, Perez, then Fernando Alonso to set their times. Oscar Piastri, Carlos Sainz, Lando Norris, and Charles Leclerc, with Valtteri Bottas staying in the pits for now. I think the stake team realizing that maybe a little bit of luck on their side, getting Valtteri Bottas through into the top 10, although a sublime lap from the Finn. Let's see then how these guys are getting on. Max Verstappen on the flying lap. On board with him, coming through that first sector. And undoubtedly will be setting the standard. Fastest through there. Of course, Hulkenberg and Russell, the only two drivers that have completed the first sector so far in ahead of Max Verstappen. But still. Max Verstappen quicker than Sergio Perez through the first sector. His teammate in the Red Bull just behind. And Alonso goes quickest through the first sector. But Nico Hulkenberg is going to set us up then. So Hulkenberg going round turn 16. And across the line for Nico Hulkenberg, a 1:35.4. George Russell is going to be next. And this is going to be our kind of provisional standings. George Russell slower than Nico Hulkenberg by 0.2 of a second. So Hulkenberg quicker than the Mercedes. Max Verstappen, though, quickest through the middle sector. And quicker than both of those cars. Will go quickest by a considerable margin. 1.4 seconds quicker than Hulkenberg. Max Verstappen goes top of the leaderboard. Sergio Perez, I imagine, is going to slot in just behind. Oh, just behind, but by 0.5 of a second. The Mexican off of the pace. Fernando Alonso quickest through the first sector. An okay middle sector as well from the Spaniard. This is going to be a pretty good lap from the Aston Martin. Goes second fastest. 0.4 alongside Max Verstappen. Oh, Piastri gets a little bit of gravel and goes into 4th place. Cost him a little bit of time there. Carlos Sainz gets some dust on his tyres as well and goes 5th fastest. Here's Lando Norris, who has been exceptionally quick this weekend. Can he do it again? Not quite. Goes 4th fastest and slots in behind Sergio Perez. Charles Leclerc is 7th fastest. So there we have it. Verstappen and Alonso. Did I say, don't count out Fernando Alonso. He does just manage to put in some of these performances, doesn't he? Ridiculous. Oh, Oscar Piastri, yeah. Proper dip of tyres into the gravel. Not quite as dramatic as Carlos Sainz was in the previous qualifying session, but still a little bit of dust kicked up by Oscar Piastri. And some gravel onto the racing line as well. But here we are then. So Verstappen currently sits on pole position as he's now making his way past turn 16 and into the pits. Fernando Alonso, second quickest in that Aston Martin, just manages to find time where I don't know how. How he does it, I will never understand. Fernando Alonso, so incredibly quick once again in qualifying in that Aston Martin. Sergio Perez in 3rd place, kind of where we'd expect him to be, around about nearing Max Verstappen. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri 4th and 5th. A little bit disappointing from the Ferraris. They are 0.7 off the pace in all of that, and they were on some fresh soft compound tyres as well. Nico Hulkenberg in 8th place. George Russell in 9th, and Valtteri Bottas didn't set a time. But we're going to see all of the cars come back around once again. Oscar Piastri just making his way into the pits and asking the team if they can check the floor when he does manage to get back into pit lane. Sainz into the pits, Norris as well, and Leclerc. So that is all 10 of the drivers into the pits. And 5 minutes on the clock. What are we expecting there? I'm expecting the Ferraris to do a little bit better than that. What happened to Bottas? Bottas didn't go out. Just holding the kick Sauber back. I think they realised that you know, it's a little bit fortunate that they're in the top 10 anyway. They're not really battling with the top 10 contenders, so they can be a little bit more cautious, maybe hold back a set of soft compound tires for Valtteri Bottas in case he needs them in the race, and not have to gamble and go out and set a provisional lap time, because Valtteri Bottas unlikely to do better than 10th anyway. So just holding back and letting Bottas... I reckon they'll send out Bottas for one flying lap, but didn't need that the banker lap in for Valtteri Bottas, I don't think. Trying to put on Valtteri Bottas's tyres. Yeah, that's very true. Wheel nut issue once again for Stake, probably. No, I'm joking. They're just holding him back for statistics purposes. Bottas can still beat Hulkenberg? Oh, most definitely, yeah. Most definitely. But they just didn't want to set that provisional lap time. Hold back a set of soft compound tyres. And I mean, Hulkenberg went out on a used set of softs anyway. So neither Hulkenberg or Bottas going for that kind of fresh set of tyres like the rest of the field. Bottas pole position. He's out now, at least. So Bottas is going to come out in the middle of this pack. I think it's Piastri, then Leclerc, then possibly Norris. And then Bottas is going to come out just behind Lando Norris. Oh, no, he's behind Oscar Piastri. There you are. So Nico Hulkenberg, once again, is going to be first across the line. George Russell behind him. Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc out a little bit earlier in the order this time around. They're going to be third and fourth. Piastri is going to be fifth across the line. There you go. Valtteri Bottas is sixth across the line. Seventh across the line is going to be Lando Norris. Then Max Verstappen out on track. Fernando Alonso, the penultimate driver. And it's going to be Sergio Perez, the last man to set a flying lap time. 2.5 minutes left to go in this Japanese qualifying session then. Hello, Scottish Numpty. How you doing? Vettel Hamilton. Hear me out. I still think Lewis Hamilton is better than Alonso. In the right machinery. Not sure. The Aston Martin and the Mercedes look pretty comparable over the course of the start of the season, don't you think? Penguin, I thought I did shout you out when you subscribed, I'm going to be honest. But I'll shout you out again. Thank you, Penguin, for subscribing. Chinese, not Japanese. I keep saying that. I keep saying Japanese Grand Prix. I'm still in the Japanese Grand Prix kind of mindset. I know it was a couple of weeks ago. Don't forget to drop a like. Thank you very much, Antonio. As we come towards the end of this qualifying session, Nico Hulkenberg and George Russell getting us started with the end of qualifying 3. Carlos Sainz just coming around the final corner and across the line. But yeah, if you could leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new as well. That would be wonderful. I know we're in China. I say Japan sometimes because it's very early. I've been up since 3 a.m. I was covering the sprint qualifying earlier on this morning. I'm all over the place. Carlos Sainz, though, a 10th off Max Verstappen's provisional pole time through the first sector in the Ferrari. Lando Norris now given the go-ahead. Valtteri Bottas is far enough away for him to go. Hulkenberg coming down the back straight as Fernando Alonso and Sergio Perez are just gearing up for their final flying lap. Thank you, Kim, for subscribing. Thank you, Tessa, for subscribing as well. Massively appreciate it. It really does help out the channel. Let's see then. Sergio Perez is the last man across the line with 30 seconds left to go. Nico Hulkenberg, though, is going to be first to set his flying lap time. Can Nico Hulkenberg improve? He does. He goes 6th fastest and faster than both of the Ferrari cars. Where's George Russell in all of this? Russell goes 3rd fastest of anybody. So Russell getting that Mercedes a lot higher up. Carlos Sainz has been pretty slow through the middle sector. It's going to be tough. Charles Leclerc, though, really quick through the middle sector for the Ferrari team. The checkered flag drops. Carlos Sainz comes across the line, goes 2nd fastest. saved it a little bit in that final sector, did Carlos Sainz, but I think Charles Leclerc's going to be quicker, and goes quicker than his teammate. Charles Leclerc still only good enough for second, though, to Max Verstappen. The Ferraris jump up the order. Oscar Piastri is next, and Piastri displaces the Ferraris, then takes second place behind Max Verstappen. Where can Valtteri Bottas put it? 10th place for Valtteri Bottas in the stakes. Sauber, Lando Norris is going to be across the line next. Quicker than his teammate. Goes onto the front row of the grid. So Lando Norris, second fastest of anybody. Here's Max Verstappen, kicks up some dust as he comes around the final corner. Across the line and improves. Goes 5/10 quicker than Lando Norris. He's going to take pole once again because Fernando Alonso was a little bit slow through that first sector in the Aston Martin. Second sector was okay, but where can he slot the Aston Martin? Currently 6th place. Goes second! Fernando Alonso's on the front row in the Aston Martin. What a lap that was. Pretty slow through the first sector from Alonso, but Sergio Perez, can he ruin it? Yes! Sergio Perez makes it a 1-2 for Red Bull. Oh, Fernando Alonso saved that lap during the middle sector and final sector. What a performance from the Spaniard. Wow, take a bow, Fernando Alonso. So it is the Red Bulls from Fernando Alonso in 3rd place, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri behind in 4th and 5th, Charles Leclerc, the quicker of the Ferraris, in 6th place, with Carlos Sainz starting beside the sole top 10 Mercedes in George Russell in 8th place. Then the final point scoring positions will start with Nico Hülkenberg and Valtteri Bottas tomorrow in 9th and 10th place. The 5 drivers we lost in Q2. Lance Stroll will start in 11th, Daniel Ricciardo 12th, Ocon 13th, Albon 14th, Pierre Gasly will start in 15th place with Zhou Guanyu, the hometown hero, in 16th place. He was the first driver to miss out because of falling out in Q1. Kevin Magnussen and Lewis Hamilton will start on the penultimate row of the grid in 17th and 18th place respectively. Also dropped out in Q1. And Yuki Tsunoda and Logan Sargent will be at the back of the pack come the Chinese Grand Prix tomorrow morning. Goodness me. That was a bit exciting, wasn't it? Fernando Alonso looking like he might just do something a little bit special. Then Sergio Perez turning up right at the end. Lando Norris once again showing his quality in the McLaren. The 2 Ferraris incredibly close to one another. It's going to be interesting tomorrow. There's a lot of battles out on track, and there's a lot of battles coming off the back of the sprint race this morning, particularly the 2 Ferrari drivers. They were not happy with one another after the sprint race. And now we're looking at them battling once again in the full Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc, though, gets out of the Ferrari car. Doesn't look overly pleased with a 6th place. And neither does George Russell with his 8th place at all. Struggling, just wondering where they can find the temps to get in front and get closer to that man there, Max Verstappen, as Fernando Alonso slots in 3rd place. Sergio Perez slots into 2nd place beside his teammate. Well, I'm going to leave you there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like if you are enjoying the stream. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Massively helps us out in terms of getting this channel to where we want it to be. Even if you want to support us even more, maybe drop a little membership as well. Some new members stuff coming to the channel this afternoon, hopefully, or possibly by tomorrow. We are live once again for the Chinese Grand Prix tomorrow morning, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. If you did miss the sprint race this morning, we were also live for that too, so feel free to go back onto the lives tab and go back to watch the sprint race from earlier on today. And of course, if you haven't watched some of the videos that have come out recently, I did a deep dive on Williams and what's going on with them back at the factory. It's getting a little bit interesting for them and how their season might develop. So check out that video on the channel as well. That would massively help out me. Thank you though so much. Thanks for streaming. No problem at all. Absolutely love it. And yeah, I will see you tomorrow live for the Chinese Grand Prix, where once again, Max Verstappen is the man to beat.